I have to just say that the greatest thing, as I'm reflecting about what the greatest thing is about having the Mandela Effect experience, is understanding that there is a much greater reality out there than what we're living in right now. I mean, when I saw all the things around me change the way they did, I knew that this place was a construct. It was made by somebody. And that there's absolutely, it's not just a belief anymore. There's absolutely guaranteed, no doubt in my mind, there's a much bigger reality that supersedes all of this. That was a wonderful thing. I appreciate the experience of the Mandela effect for giving me that, not just a belief, but a knowing, a much stronger knowing of what this, greater reality might be. And that this one that we're living in is definitely constructed. Now, that caused us to go down the path of, simulations and created realities and multiple realities and all that. I think the one that really got me thinking hard was reading David Icke's book, The Trap, and the whole Gnostic standpoint. And I listened to Howdy Mikowski or whatever, and a bunch of people about this trap idea. And there are things about the trap in the book that I would agree with, but however, I've had to think hard about the solution being offered in that book, and this reality being looked at as a trap or viewed as a trap or as a school for our benefit and a learning experience. And I'll tell you that I've I after spending a lot of time looking into this and thinking about it, I have to say I'm leaning towards the school that life is all about soul growth and learning and us getting back to God. There's definitely a fall experience, which is it's pushed us for this gap between us and God, and I believe life is a school that allows a solution. It allows us to get back into that right place with God. Where the trap idea, I can't discount it completely, and we can't take it off the table because there's still the possibility maybe all of this is just a trap and nothing more. But I'll tell you the reason that I don't like the trap theory as much as the school. And the first thing is, so I guess experience has to be talked about a little bit here. When I experienced the Mandela effect, I know that this reality is not completely real. If somebody hasn't had the same experience as me, they can't have the same certainty. They might like hearing about my experience. They might lean towards that, have some beliefs towards that, but they might not know, or how can they know unless they've really had the same exact experience. And the same thing with when people like David say that these people that have near death experiences and they go before God or what they believe is God, they go before the light, they go before this other being, or whatever experience they've had, that light is not just light. It's accompanied with 1,000 degrees of communication. I mean, it's 100% an embracement of love, and it's more than telepathic. You are one with that experience. Anybody who's had these NDE experiences over and over and over, you cannot convince them otherwise, that they weren't in this presence and that it wasn't legit. To say to them that they were being deceived, that they were being suckered, that they were being convinced that life was something other than what was being portrayed, and that they were being tricked into coming back. Anybody having that experience would chuckle at the thought, because there's just such of a strong knowing. I didn't have a full blown NDE, but I did have something of a God experience in September 2016, where I felt that two-way, extreme, beyond telepathic understanding, embrace of love, a communication, and the idea of that being a delusion it's just, after you've experienced it, you can't. I mean, it's like somebody telling me that my experience with the Mandela effect is all in my head, a trick of the mind, an illusion. It's the same exact thing. I laugh when people say that because they just don't know. They haven't been there. They haven't done that. So a lot of NDE or E people that have had that conversation with the light would definitely not embrace this idea that they were being deceived in that conversation, because they just know. They just know that they know. Of course, I know that's I'm just speaking about experiences. Here's a good example. That last video that I did about, Kellogg's having once spelled their cereal box as KORN. I know that they did. I know that they did back in 2016, 2017. I saw the box. I know the physical box was spelled KORN, and that was a Mandela effect because people were saying that it's supposed to be corn. So I just did this video, and I showed so much old evidence. Now, this article says corn crisp, but they definitely switched from corn crisp to corn flakes. There's advertisements. There's printed in so many papers, Kellogg's corn flakes spelled with a K. I don't I don't need that. I don't need that to prove that it happened. I physically experienced this box. Absolutely, no doubt. Absolutely. And I did a video right after I saw the switch. But yet I still have, people saying, well, maybe you're confused. And I laugh, I chuckle. It's like, there's no way I'm confused about this. Another thing that just blows my mind is there are people who actually embrace the idea that we live in a simulated reality, or they embrace the idea that there are multiple planet Earths and multiple dimensions and all that. They embrace these ideas. I've had conversations with these people who are somewhat famous. I mean, they've got some reputation. They've published some works. They've gone on interviews. They've said all these things, and yet when I've had the conversation with them, I was going to pull up one where I had a dialogue with this one guy that was pretty well known at some university, and he was talking about simulation. I was talking to him about the Mandela effect. So he would not consider anything that I said, anything that I gave him for evidence, he would dismiss. He still believes that we live in a simulation, but he dismissed everything that I had to say with the Mandela effect. And I just look at the 1,000 things that I could give him, and just this one right alone, this cornflakes, KORN cornflakes, and that the residual evidence that it once did exist, and yet when you go to the company, they will completely deny that it ever was spelled that way. They will say from the very beginning of their company it's been CORN. You can give people this evidence and they completely dismiss it. And I only know, I had the physical experience with this box. I had the physical experience with the whole world knowing it one way and then switching on me, flip-flopping on me. So because I've experienced that, I know that it does change. And I have a hard time just with people that completely dismiss the evidence, because that's fine if you dismiss me. If you dismiss my account, my testimony, you can dismiss that all day. Even though there's like thousands of other people giving very similar accounts and testimonies, I still think that's a little, I think that's a little off to dismiss all of the people and all of their testimonies. I really do. I mean, you can dismiss one person, right? Thousands of people sharing the same exact hardcore experience, and they're 100%. Scientific community has done nothing with the Mandela effect. They are not pursuing it. I've seen no legitimate investigations. If we can ever get to where they are now with investigating NDEs, that would be huge. That would be a huge step forward. But right now, every conversation I have with anybody that's schooled in investigating things like that are paranormal, they don't discuss this, at all. If they'll discuss theoretical physics up until this point, Mandela effect gets thrown out. It's so hard to find anybody to consider the Mandela effect that's got any kind of like title. They just don't. Anyway, I'm getting off the subject. The whole point is your experience means something to you. It means everything to you. And when you've experienced, if you've had an NDE, you went into the light, bam, there's nobody's going to tell you that you're being fooled. And now compound that with thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming back, having the same experience and all taking that position. That's just the point that I'm trying to make about how you know something or some evidence there. But still, okay, not 100%. Maybe this is just a trap, a loose sucking machine, and that's its only purpose. But I have an issue with that because when I look at the solution to me to getting out of the trap and this life not being for there